this could all be a Curt Cignetti palooza at the end of the day. Josh, can you explain to me why Indiana has been able to do what it has done so quickly with Curt Cignetti, and how the current landscape of college football might have leveled the playing field for this to happen?
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of people doing that whole, how good is this team relative to 2020 Alabama, 2019 LSU? People always do that.
Right.
I never like doing that. But if you look at those teams, those sorts of teams don't exist anymore. The teams that are knee deep in future NFL talent, you go to practice and the twos, and in some cases the threes, are going to end up being first and second round draft picks a couple years down the road. No one's roster looks like that anymore. And as a result, when you add in the factor of injury throughout the year, when it comes to the big time programs, the tops of the tallest trees, Rich, just don't look like they used to. They're not as insurmountable as they used to be. So then you got that, the elite teams aren't quite as elite. And then you got this other concept of this guy coming in from James Madison, importing some 22, 23, 24-year-old guys with him, bringing his coaching staff. He's got an environment that guys want to stick around in. And everybody's searching for the secret formula, secret ingredients. And he keeps telling people, and people don't believe it because they think it's got to be more complicated than just defining your process, and then people yawn. And then, it's got to adhere to the process. He's really, really good at player evals. Saban had him doing it once upon a time at Alabama. So he's really good at evaluating. They're obviously really good at developing, but it's just a bunch of old guys who know how to play football really good against teams that in the aggregate aren't as elite as teams would have been 5 years ago at this stage in the playoff.
Well, what about the fact that their average age mirrors a National Football League team that's on the younger scale, and that there's grown-ass men with, extra eligibility due to what? I guess we're on the back end of the COVID year even still for some.
Yeah.
The transfer portal and things of that nature, that they also now have got the money for the portal, thanks to Mark Cuban and others. And what about that? That they're coming in as a highly experienced team, and obviously the Canes winning this game with somebody like Malachi Toney would be sort of the antidote in a way for that. It's just an interesting aspect of the Indiana Hoosiers that is an outlier as well, right, Josh?
Yeah, but if you also think about who would be theoretically throwing Malachi Toney the ball, he's a seventh-year guy.
That's right.
Carson Beck, I saw a headline the other day that when Carson Beck committed to Georgia, Toney was 11. I think he was 10 or 11 years old. So,
Josh, we had two wild card weekend starters in the National Football League who were in the same class as Carson Beck being recruited, in Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
When they made the eligibility rule post-COVID the way it was, you could look out over the horizon. None of us obviously knew to pinpoint Indiana, but you could look out over the horizon and you knew for the next half decade you were going to be dealing with the after effects of that. And you were going to have some 23, 24, 25-year-old guys in some cases playing college football. And then it's going to move past, like, I don't want to get way in the weeds here, but now you're starting to look at these conventions like the coaches convention that just happened in Charlotte. One of the big topics of conversation was redshirt rules, because one of the sicknesses in college football right now is they got a 4-game where you could play and still redshirt if you don't play more than 4 games. Well, you understand the intent of that rule, but people had started to abuse it. Guys play 4 games, feel themselves out, and then they just say, I'm done for the year. Not a coach's decision, a player's decision. And so the coaches are looking at it saying, can we just have 5 years for guys to play 4 and just be done with it, not worry about this? And then the lawyer said, that may run afoul in the courtroom. So then they arrive at this ridiculous conclusion yesterday, which is, all right, instead of 4 games, let's make it 9 games you can play.
That's nuts.
And still redshirt. No one knows. I have no idea. My hands have been up for 24 hours. I have no idea where they're going with that. I also was just on the phone with someone before I came on your show, and I finally asked the question maybe not enough people are asking. Hey, everyone says legally this won't hold up. Does anyone actually have evidence of that? Like, does anyone really know the legal ramifications if you just institute changes to the red shirt rule? Or does one person just say it and it echoes throughout the college football halls because most of us don't have legal degrees?
Well, I can answer that question for you, Josh. It's our colleague and fellow, Ball brotherhood individuals and Jay Billis. Jay probably would know the answer to that in 2 seconds flat. And that just puts in my mind's eye, I gotta have him on the program as well, in short order. Josh Pate here on the Rich Eisen Show. At the end of the day, where does the Rich alumni base that now out in the open can give money to players rank in terms of the most important aspect of building a winning program in college football? Where does it rank with who's the head coach? Where does it rank with best recruiting class coming out of high school, facilities, school? Where does it rank? Is it number one now?
I think it's number two.
Okay.
I would make it number two. A lot of people are going to argue number one. To those folks, I would direct their attention to several mega payroll teams that were sitting at home for the playoffs. And I would ask them if that's the most important factor. Obviously, you could throw Indiana in their face, but you could also say, like, what about these big spending teams that sat at home? Obviously, it takes a little more than just having a bunch of cash and acquiring these commodities and toss them all together. I thought that's what was so impressive about Texas Tech this year. Texas Tech spent a ton of money. They were never shy about admitting that. But from day one, just the team dynamic, like the mortar between the bricks, in other words, that it normally takes a lot of time to put in place was there. That's the key. Like, it's not, can I go buy the best seeds? It's, what kind of garden am I tossing these seeds in? Yeah, I want to toss the highest price seeds in there, but am I tossing them in topsoil or am I tossing them in gravel? Because a lot of folks out there just trying to toss the seeds in gravel and thinking, well, we paid enough money, just voila, it'll happen. It's no different than when you go pay a coach a whole lot of money and you think that circumvents you around the process that it takes for that coach to develop. Like at Oregon right now, Dan gets paid a ton of money, and yet they're still coming up in the playoffs and they're getting blown out a couple of times. Well, he's 39 years old. So you can either look at that and say, yeah, but he gets paid a ton of money, so he can't be losing like that. Or you can look at it and say, it doesn't matter if you pay him 10 million or 10 billion. You don't just get to pop coaches in the microwave and speed up development, just like with teams. You don't get to spend your way around the non-negotiables that it takes to win as a team. And that's why, like with Indiana right now, no one's really going to pull off duplicating the Indiana blueprint because it's a kind of unique situation. But if people want to chase that model, I will relish in all these big spending programs chasing how to cultivate that kind of dynamic in their building. Because those are the sorts of things that I would love college football programs to be chasing instead of what many of them are chasing.
Well, is it fair to say Indiana just used the right amount of money on the right players with the right system and the right coach, and got the right kid in Mendoza from Cal at the right time, and it's a lightning strike? Or is this something that, with the finances that Indiana has, they could just keep repeating over and over and over again, as long as they have the right guy at the top and Signetti and his staff identifying that kid there is perfect for our system, and we don't have to spend as much money on that kid because he's not a 5-star. He's not coming from a program that just won 12 games or anything like that, right? I mean, is that it? Is that it?
I think the skill is in putting yourself in position to compete for the title every year. And then there's a little bit of luck that goes into it. But to answer your question, yes, I think Curt Cignetti will have them in that picture every year. I'm firmly convinced of that.
Me too.
And I think,
me too.
Think about this though. Okay, so two sides to this coin. When we were down in Atlanta last week, when they were playing Oregon, I think the entire state went down there, totally took over Atlanta. And they kept on saying, man, think about this. Like our story this year is great, but this will be the least talented team that Curt Cignetti ever has. And I'll grant you, that's probably true. Like, they're getting attention from a lot of guys that they never would have gotten attention from before. But I want to caution people. I don't think you'll ever have a better team in the purest sense of what a team is. Yeah. I don't think you'll ever have a better team anywhere than Indiana and Curt Cignetti were able to have this year. Because with all the talent that comes in, there are just different consequences to that. I remember listening to Saban when he was first at Alabama, those first couple of years, they get that first round of recruits through, and they go up against Tebow and Urban Meyer, and they fall just short one year. Then they beat him, and they win the title the next year. And people were saying, man, and now imagine how much more talented Alabama's going to be under Saban. They did go on to put many more talented teams than those early teams on the field. But if you listen to him talk about his time at Alabama, he always talks about the dynamics of that first team and how he was never really fully able to replicate that. So that's a catch-22. But then on the other side of it, Rich, they are going to be there because they are not a have-not. One of the big misnomers about Indiana is they're a have-not. They are not a have-not. They are a has-not. The trophy case is barren,
Nice.
so they have not done anything, but they are not a have-not. So as much as Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State are able to have juice in the talent acquisition space, Indiana, from this point moving forward, is able to stand shoulder to shoulder with them.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.